Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, episode number 166, The Munsters, the classic 1964-66 series. With us tonight, we have our special guest. First, I'm going to introduce my friend, my co-host, the one and only Mr. Ross Amico. Ross, welcome.
Baseball bat.
And
For the World Series.
Of the World Series. Yeah, what happened with the Yankees? Anyway. Joining us tonight, this is our 3-year tradition that we've been doing for Halloween month. Our friends from Sci-Fi Distilled, Mr. Mike Rizzo. Welcome, Mike.
Cheers. Well, thank you.
Miss Marybeth Rakowski. Welcome, Marybeth. How are you both?
We're good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Hey, this is our third actual traditional episode that we're doing for Halloween.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
it's like The Simpsons. What's it? Horror.
Treehouse of Horror. Yeah. It's Roy's Treehouse of Horror.
Treehouse of Horror.
And actually, I should say, welcome Baseball Bat, welcome Buzz, and welcome Catwoman.
No, Marybeth, you didn't even change your name on the thing. Come on.
Oh, I did.
You
You're
went
right,
with the
I
at
did.
Embarico.
You're absolutely right. I totally should have changed it to at least Julie Newmar.
I didn't know if you noticed on my show, I change it every week.
I know. I
So
love
it's
that.
something
I love
different.
that you do that.
It's all good. Hey, I want to welcome our viewers that are joining us out there. I see we have Jeff Rubles joining us from out west. Welcome, Jeff. Great to see you out there. We also have Craig Evans that's joining us from the theater. Welcome, Craig. Good to see you out there. He's joining us from New Jersey. I also see Sue is in the house from Massachusetts. Welcome, Sue. And then also we have Christian that's joining us from Canada. Welcome, Christian. And Jack Daly is also in the house. Welcome, Jack. And then Don Bethman. Donnie's joining us from Delaware. So welcome, Don. Good to see everybody out there. Hope you're all doing well tonight. And we are actually coming to the conclusion, which is really hard to believe because this month has actually been really going very quickly, but we are actually concluding Halloween month and we are wrapping it up, but we are going a little bit easier this with this episode because we're going with the 64-66 series of the Munsters, which has always been a favorite, I think, of all of us. I mean, it's just a lighthearted comedy. And it's kind of like I'll say a wholesome type of show.
It was brilliant for its day. It really was when you think about it.
Yes. And we can get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I always like to do with Ross,
I feel like the guy from Monsters Inc. You know, every time they showed him on screen, there's something over his face. Thank you. I was down in the corner there, and I.
Oh, you get
comments
the,
wrong.
you get the
My
comment.
This thing here.
yeah, we do a lot of that. By the way, Sue's commenting. I think Ross's costume as a baseball bat is bitingly clever. Oh,
But tis.
oh, we got to welcome Dennis Chevalier. Dennis is joining us from Canada. Welcome, Dennis. And also, Dennis, I wanted to do this the other week, and I got sidetracked. Happy belated birthday. So.
Oh, happy birthday, Dennis.
Happy birthday, Dennis.
Yeah, so he's celebrating. So good to see you out there. Eva's joining us, my friend back from grade school. Welcome, Eva. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for being out there. Good to see you there. So anyway, guys, gals, did you used to watch the show growing up?
In rerun.
In reruns, of course. I wasn't even born when it went off the air.
Right.
Yeah.
No, neither was I. Yeah.
I was 66, right? So I was 67. So I missed it by a year. But yeah, like you say, we were saying earlier, Roy, before we went on, that Channel 11 and WPIX out of New York used to run all these shows. The Addams Family, Star Trek, all those old shows. They used to run Lost in Space.
We need so many people in our audience have mentioned this is PIX, right?
Yep, WPIX. Yep.
We need to have a PIX appreciation night.
Yeah.
Everyone watched everything on PIX.
And they're still around. They're still on the air. I mean, it's still there. So it was either that or what was the one out of New Jersey, Channel 9?
Channel 9 was WOR.
That was the other. That was the other independent.
You are.
But you know what, Mike? To your point, though, it's interesting because Channel 9 actually used to be in New York, but then what they did was they switched over to New Jersey later in the 70s, if my memory remembers correctly. But they did start out in New York City.
They became what they called a superstation because they actually went out on cable and satellite.
Yes.
So they were nationwide at one point. I don't know if they still are.
And the funny thing is, back in the day, it was channels 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. And 13 was
PBS.
UHS.
Yeah,
so that's
UHF. We had UHF.
Yeah.
But
UHF.
13 was the PBS channel, which is still there, by the way. It's, of course, not 13 anymore, but
right.
That's another station that's still, all those stations are actually still active. But I lived in Southern Connecticut, so we used to pull all of our off an aerial from New York.
Yeah.
So we were lucky because I know people that lived up where I live now, and they, we got like 2 stations.
Well, the funny thing is, because when I was probably up until about 5th grade, we lived right outside of New York City. And then what happened was my parents moved out deeper into Jersey, which literally in this area borders Pennsylvania. And when we did that, then we had access to the Philadelphia stations. But before that, it was simply just New York, and there was no cable. It was
Right. No.
had the rabbit ears and the strong signals that were propelling everything.
Yeah, we had a big aerial on the roof, and there was no cable. We didn't get cable till the early 80s.
Yeah, that seems like my God, it seems like a lifetime ago.
But
Hey, we still have other people.
Well, and that's why I showed you this series. One of the things when I was researching is that there's one season was over 30 episodes, around 30 episodes. Which today we're lucky if we get 10.
Well, 10 or 12.
But the reasoning, I think, a lot of aside from that there was just no other programming. Now we have this massive choice between streaming and cable services, and you have so much choice. And I think because the company, they can't just make 30 episodes and make it profitable.
Right.
So, but back then, you watched what was on because that's all it was. We were lucky in being near the city to pull in as many channels as we did,
Well, I think back then too, I think there was less on television than obviously there is now. So they're actually putting so much more into it. But when you think that, I think the Munsters it ran for the 2 years it was on from 64 to 66. It ran a total of 70 episodes. So on the average, it's 35 episodes per season. I mean, that's a lot.
In comparison, Star Trek had 3 seasons, and they're right up around 72. 72,
right?
Yeah.
79 actually, if you count the pilots. Yeah.
Okay, I knew it was in the 70s.
Yeah. But still, and Lost in Space, that one I believe was in the 80s, because I think the first season was like 29 episodes, the second was 30, and then the third was 24. So 24 was almost like the standard, like Space 1999, the same thing. It was 24 and 24.
24, yeah.
I think when they got into the 70s, the 24 kind of became the standard.
Yeah.
I just want to say hi to Vince. Vince is out there. Welcome, Vince. Glad to see you're out there.
I can't see the chat because I don't have my reading. These aren't reading glasses.
I know the chat.
I can't see. These aren't progressives. I can only see these are.
This is what happens when you have old people on your show.
And
my optometrist tells me as I get older, my distance vision will improve and my near sight, my close up will get worse. So I don't know, that I guess that's one. Is that a good thing?
It's a sign of getting older. I'm in the
Sign of
same
getting
boat.
older, yeah.
I mean, what I'm doing right now is I'm using one. I'm very nearsighted. I'm like blind without my contact lenses. So one lens is for distance, and then the other one is for.
That would freak me out.
Does it give you a headache? Oh wow!
Normally I have progressives, but these are not. These are only for distance. So.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I do have progressive glasses, and I'll use those. But in regards to just using the contact lenses, so far I'm able to get by. And at 56, I'm still holding, but eventually I'm going to have to surrender to the glasses or do the LASIK. It's going to be.
I've been in glasses in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Are we on yet?
Yeah.
Well, this is Ross. This is our show. We just go off on tangents, and we don't actually talk about what we're supposed to talk about.
We always go on tangents.
This is why you have us on, right?
But our tangents are relevant.
Tangents.
Hey, Matt Anthony's out there. Welcome, Matt. Good to see you out there. Also, you even commented about Channel 9 Bowling for Dollars. Who remembers that? Oh my
Remember
goodness.
that?
And
Creature
Sherry's
Feature?
joining. What's that?
Remember Creature Feature? I think that was on 11, wasn't it?
Creature Feature was on 11.
Creature,
Yeah.
Creature.
Sherry's joining us from Hellertown because she's actually pet sitting. So, hi, hun. Good to see you out there. She said, we all look good. I love the Munsters. Watched it as a very young girl.
Alexandra is asking if we saw the Rob Zombie, the 2022 Rob Zombie version. Yes, gentle viewers, I watched it for you, and I will give
You don't have to.
my review. So I watched it, so you don't have to. My review is you don't have to.
You don't have to.
Now, wait a minute. I just got to be a little light here because, truth be told, now Vince and I are going to be going to Chiller tomorrow. We're only going for a couple hours. We're going to go in very early in the morning. God help me. I should know better, but I'm going to try.
You're going to see it there?
And Dan Rawbach is actually there. He's there, and
he did awesome. Now he played Grandpa, right? Is that who I'm thinking of?
He knocked it out of the park.
He did.
Yeah, he's from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. He's like literally, he grew up like about 15 miles down the road from here. So anyway, yeah, he's going to be there. And I actually have a friend of a friend, you know how the friend thing goes, that knows him. So I'm hoping to talk to him.
Fun. His autograph. Yeah. He did amazing. You know what? They put their hearts into it, and you could tell they loved the Munsters. Yeah, it was fun. It's absolutely kid friendly. Kids can watch it, which is amazing coming out from Rob Zombie. But yeah, it was just fun. It was just Munsters. It was,
Catherine Schell was in it. Maya from Space.
Yes, Catherine Schell was in it, and Sylvester McCoy, the eighth Doctor. The eighth Doctor was in it, and the voice talent. Well, and was Cassandra. What's her bucket? Elvira. Mm-hmm. And then there was the voice talent of Butch Patrick and Pat Priest. So they had quite a number of people in the movie. So we should have been able to see both Pat and Butch, but okay, voices are good too.
The spirit was willing. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, and the other interesting the other person who lent her voice to that movie was Dee Wallace. We know Dee Wallace best as the mom from E.T.
Right. And Cujo, from Cujo.
Howling. Yeah.
Howling. That's exactly where I was going with that.
Yeah. And you know what? Howling. She is also going to be at Chiller tomorrow.
Believe it or not. Fun.
Send my regards.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be there to celebrate the 40th anniversary of E.T. She's going to be there. Elliot, the actor that portrayed Elliot, the actor that portrayed the other brother. Yeah, Henry Thomas. And then also the one stunt person that portrayed E.T. is going to be there. So they're going to be doing photo ops at Chiller. Cool. So that should be interesting. Nice. Hey, I want to welcome the Hague. John's out there. Welcome, John. Good to see you out there. The Hague is in the house. Alexandra, welcome. I know Marybeth was just commenting on your comments, so it's great to see you out there. Randy Lee is also out there, and he's commenting, some of you may know that I have a kid with significant cognitive delays. He loves the Munsters. He insists that we watch it before bedtime. He will even make me repeat things like lurch.
Well, that's the Addams family. Wait a minute.
That's the Addams family.
That's the Addams family.
Addams family.
You're crossing streams.
Crossing the streams. But
you know,
it's funny you mentioned the Addams family because me and Marybeth have had conversations about this. And this may not be the popular for this particular show, but we really think the Addams family is the better show.
Interesting enough, though, in the ratings, both were competing with each other when they were on. And interesting enough, the Munsters, I think, came in at number 18 ranking. And I think the Addams family came in like 23rd, 24th. But they still did very well. And they similar but different.
That's no indication of which show is better. It's like just which was more popular.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they both had their. Yeah, they both had their. I mean, Addams family could be very inventive, and the Munsters kind of had its formula, which was funny. I mean, I was saying on Facebook, and I've said this in the past. There are two kinds of jokes. There's the punchline that you don't see coming, and it's funny for that reason. Then there's a punchline that you do see coming. But you want to see how it lands. And there's a satisfaction in how it lands. And the Munsters had a lot of that shtick. You knew what the punchline was.
You know where it was going, right? Their shtick was always the people that were afraid when they realized that they were monsters.
Right. You only had a few
hair
plots.
going. blowing.
Right. You had the people that would stupidly try to take advantage of the Munsters or exploit them in some way. They would always wind up running away at the end. Or you would have Herman either trying to do something selfless for somebody else and scaring them, or Herman finding himself in a position where he becomes inexplicably like a baseball player or a movie star.
Yes, and basketball.
And then he gets a big head, and then he gets his comeuppance.
You know what's interesting when you think about it? Think about The Simpsons, and it follows the same pattern in a lot of ways.
Well,
how many times has Homer done things that he became an astronaut? The other thing, all these things that he got to do that wouldn't normally do. But it was the same thing with Herman. He got to do these weird things that normal people wouldn't do.
Well, the Munsters was a subversion of like the whole Ozzie and Harriet mentality sitcom.
Yeah, they were spoofing Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah,
well, the producers,
the opening, with her.
Yeah, it was the same production team, wasn't it?
It was the same producers that did Leave It to Beaver.
It was the same team as Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah, they were clearly satiring.
And the first season had. Yeah, the first season had a little more of that satire, which I think was smarter writing. The second season, it started leaning in toward like more slapstick kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a little more
which I think weakened it. I think weakened it. Well, maybe some people like that better.
And that's a good point. We know American viewers of that era weren't. They were writing for the lowest common denominator. I mean, slapstick comedy is what was working, because if you went too clever, look what happened with Star Trek. Here we are, all roads.
Right.
Star Trek, the original pilot. Oh, it's too cerebral.
Yep.
You got to dumb it down or make it more action based. And I think that was kind of the time. That whether it was true or not of the audience, it was true of the studios, of what the studios thought the audiences.
Right.
Which is a shame, because unfortunately it transcended into a lot of television shows at that time, and this. It's almost like it's very formulaic, and a lot of those shows have all that type of, I'm being redundant, but formula. And that's why probably a lot of those shows, if they try to redo them today, it's just the tolerance is not there for the audience to appreciate it. I mean, it's unfortunately every decade, it's like we move on and we go into a different era and a different type of positioning where, there's an appreciation of certain types of movies and television. And I think this is very nostalgic based, and that's why we tend to have more of an appreciation for it. But I think if you take people that are growing up now and watching it, I don't think their tolerance is going to last more than a handful of episodes, if even that, because again, it's what we grew up with and what we're used to.
It depends on the episodes.
Yeah. And a couple of things about that. I mean, the era, it was coming out of, radio comedy and vaudeville, and actors still knew how to perform shtick. I mean, they got these comedic characters, character actors, and familiar faces that were in episodic television to show up and do these lines. And nobody delivers lines like that anymore in any, so artificial, but it works in the context. Look at Yvonne DiCarlo, how good she was as Lily. I mean, she really struck me watching it this time about how she really, she's a straight person, but, for a lead actress to go, for a movie actress who's in big movies to go to a sitcom and work with Al Lewis and Fred Gwynn to hold her own and not overshadow them.
That's a fantastic point, because Fred and Al had worked together on Car 54, Where Are You?
Right.
And they knew each other pretty well, and they could work off each other. And when they had cast another Joan Marshall, was her last name?
Well, yeah.
For the pilot.
For the pilot, and they decided they got Yvonne, and Fred and Al were both like, she's like a bona fide big time movie star. I don't know if this is gonna work. Right. But they took it back. I could not help but notice that anytime, like second season when I got more slapstick, or when they cast Yvonne, or when the first Marilyn was so upset and she wanted off the show, it was always Fred and Al. Fred and Al went to the producers. Fred and Al went to the studio. Fred and Al, they were clearly like the tent poles and the rocks and the leadership of that show. It was always Fred and Al did this, Fred and Al did that. It was I thought that was very interesting.
Well, they had the camaraderie, they had the respect because they had worked, as you said, they were on Car 54. Where Are You? And that was on for, I believe, a couple of seasons that went from 61 to 63. So when they were actually casting this show, they were the first two to be picked. So the respect level definitely was there because, I mean, they as you know, they worked very well together. They had the talent, the slapstick. When they brought in Joan Marshall, which was interesting because, you know, she's not somebody, I mean, we've seen her in The Twilight Zone. She was in, I think, Dead Man's Shoes with Warren Stevens. That's one example. She did other things. Of course, we know her from classic Star Trek when she was Ariel Shaw and Neil Ulrich leading to Star Trek and Court Marshal. But it was interesting to see her made up differently with the dark hair and everything. Yeah. But she was playing Phoebe, and she was a much more subdued character. And the producers didn't like her as much because it really reminded them of also the Addams Family. It was a
Morticia,
lot of
yeah. So put her picture back up. She does look like Morticia Addams.
Marilyn.
Yeah, I'm gonna share that again too.
But she's also I was shocked about how contemporary she was. You know, when she was delivering her lines, it was like somebody who would do it today compared to the stylized version of Yvonne DiCarlo. You know?
But that was a pilot that they did. It was actually more of like a presentation, and it was only about 15 minutes long. It wasn't even a whole show. Hour.
Yeah.
And they took a lot of the story from that, and then they incorporated into the first pilot or the first episode, which
yes, you can actually hear both women saying the same lines.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. And I really think that with Yvonne DiCarlo, I think she made it work. I mean, and she's true professional. They were afraid that Fred Gwynne and then Al Lewis she was going to be almost stuffy, and you know, because she was like, I mean, she was made in Hollywood. I mean, the background, the movies that she did. I mean, when you think of like, you know, the 10 Commandments. I mean, that was another one.
Salome, yeah.
Well, you're right. She was the straight man in the show. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she was always never really the goofy one. She always played, you know.
She had some punchlines.
But for the most part, she didn't. But they weren't punchlines to her. You know what I'm saying? She was being serious.
Right. She was never sticky.
Yeah.
Like Grandpa. Al Lewis. You know, it's like, we need to fill time. Get Al Lewis to do some. Give him the magic book or something.
Right. He's be down in his lab.
He's an interesting dude. He and Fred. You know, all these people are really interesting people. When you start kind of digging into their background and their history. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was an interesting cat he was. Yeah.
Well, there's such contrasting. They had such good chemistry, but it's funny because Fred was the Ivy Leaguer. You know, he came from Harvard. He was with the Harvard Lampoon, and Al was the burlesque guy from Brooklyn. So they had two totally different backgrounds, and yet they're so perfect together as a team.
Yeah, I want to welcome Bruce. Bruce is joining us, Bruce is joining us from Canada. Welcome, Bruce. And he's saying, Father Roy, bless you and your co-host this evening.
I don't think Ross wants to be blessed.
Baseball bat.
He wants a steak.
Can I
dinner?
Let me see here. Jeff Rubel's is out there too. He's saying studio heads are no nothings. Harlan Ellison.
Yeah, and you know it's true because if anybody can screw up a perfectly good show, it would be the execs.
Yeah,
the execs, yeah.
Christian's commenting, I liked all the Rob Zombie films, but they didn't watch. But didn't watch his take on the Munsters yet. I read so many bad reviews, so I don't think comedy is his thing.
Give it a try. It's
just watch it.
Fluff. It's light fluff. It's not going to hurt you. It's fun. It's colorful. The sets, they filmed it over in Czechoslovakia, Prague, maybe. I'm not sure. They filmed it overseas. The sets are fabulous.
Yeah,
fabulous,
amazing. The lighting and everything. It's
the lab, the castle is a real castle that they filmed in, and then the lab is a abandoned power plant. It's amazing.
It's in color, right? They didn't do it black and white.
It's in beautiful
It's interesting.
color.
It's interesting because this show would have been in color, but the studio didn't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
$10,000 extra
put it in black.
$10,000 per episode that they didn't want to pay. But when you look at it, you're like, well, it should be black and white. It's just like it should be black.
Absolutely, because it's a send up of not only of the families, the 1950s families, but it taps into the Universal Pictures classic horror.
I mean, exactly. All those old
we
movies
were talking about that because we just did the Mummy, and so we were talking about the Universal classic monsters. We got Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, Mummy. That's kind of the big four, and there's a smattering of others.
Creature from the Black Lagoon, and
and sometimes the Invisible Man, depending on
later.
But they have been. As we mentioned before, they had been running those movies on air. They were still wildly popular, and so they wisely were like, "Hey, you know what? Let's roll with this. Let's do something with it." And it kind of worked out. Unlike Dark Universe, which did not work out.
Matt's commenting. He's saying he worked in New York in 1991. At the time, Al Lewis owned a pizza shop on Bleecker
Yes, he did. He owned a pizza shop. It was like Grandpa's.
You know what's interesting? Al Lewis is actually younger than Yvonne DiCarlo.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing? I would have never ever thought that.
The other interesting thing
is he played an older man so well.
Yeah, he did. He's almost as tall as Fred. Not quite, but almost.
And you was also on the big.
Yeah, he was wearing the big platform shoes. Yeah. But if you watch Car 54 and you see the two of them together, you're like, oh, they are real close. Yeah.
Well, I think he also, as Grandpa, he would hunch a lot.
Yeah, I think he hunched as Grandpa, and then Fred's up on the platform shoes. It worked. It worked.
Yeah.
Linda's out there. Linda, welcome. Great to see you out there. Linda's also joining us from Canada. And Linda is also joining us on YouTube, which we are also on, as well as Twitter. So, Linda, thanks for being out there. She's saying, too cool, Ross. I didn't recognize you at all. I turned it on and was puttering in the next room and listening. Then I heard your voice, and I'm like, what? He has a cross to bear. And then Bruce is also commenting. He's saying, Roy, Faye and I are watching the Rob Zombie version tonight. Enjoy it.
Have fun. Have fun. It's fun. There's a couple of cute things that you'll laugh at. Yeah.
Anyway, about the black and white, the same thing with Young Frankenstein, of course, which we did the other year. You know, they kept the black and white to kind of tie in with that Universal Pictures vibe. The other thing about it going more childish, the second season, more slapstick, as you were saying, Mary Beth. One of the things they didn't want to do was frighten kids away, and the zeitgeist. All those old horror movies were just starting to be shown. They were sold to television, and they were just starting to be shown on TV in the 50s and 60s, and that was still going when I was a kid in the 70s. I remember I watched the original Dracula, or not the Bela Lugosi Dracula, the Boris Karloff Frankenstein. I watched all these movies with my mom before I was 5 years old. And so I was very into monsters, and this wasn't that much, this always seemed like an old show to me, but when you look at it, you say, oh, this is like 5 years before I'm sitting there on the couch watching, Dracula with my mom. And we were still reading Famous Monsters magazine, the Forrest Ackerman. I was buying the Aurora horror models and building them on Saturday mornings, that kind of thing. So this horror stuff it's funny how growing up in the 70s, we still have 1 foot in the 30s.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Well, again, and that's true because in the 60s, television all came out in the 50s. It really started to get hit its stride in the 60s.
Right.
So they were, so what was left to show in reruns in the 70s? Mm-hmm. But the old shows from the 50s, 60s, and then old movies that were being shown. So it stands to reason that we were exposed to all this stuff because that's when, nowadays, if you turn on, you don't see any of these shows in syndication, of course. You don't see even stuff from the 90s in syndication anymore. It's like it's
a huge body of work now.
Yeah, there's just massive amounts and nobody, reruns any of this stuff.
Those first movies, the Bela Lugosi, the Boris Karloff, the Lon Chaney movies, they were groundbreaking in a lot of ways, and to this day they still remain like classics for reasons. Like we just, like I said, we were doing The Mummy, and we both were like, hey, weren't there like moments of Harryhausen in there? And there were. Why? Because he's still the greatest. Like his work is still like so groundbreaking and important to moving to creating these effects, making them better and better and better. So I think it's cool if it's still kind of 1930s on the Munsters. That's all right.
And the interesting thing too is back in that time frame, more, I guess maybe even in the 70s, 60s, 70s, a lot of actors, especially movie actors, did not want to make the crossover into television. It was almost like television was like, lower.
It still is. In Hollywood, it still is considered that if you go from film to television, big screen to little screen, as they call it, it is considered a demotion or a promotion if you go the other way.
But I think
you still consider that. It's probably not as much as it used to be when you have such blockbuster TV shows like, say, Game of Thrones or something like that.
Right. It's definitely reduced the.
It's right. I think that gap has come much narrower, but it's still there.
Because look at Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill's done both. There's a number. Yeah. There's a whole bunch
now I think they're crisscrossing, and I think a lot of them are just, I need a job.
But anyway, so someone mentioned, I need a job. Someone was mentioning Yvonne's background there. Yeah, she'd been linked with a number of people, including Howard Hughes and Burt Lancaster and folks. But she finally got married, and her husband lost his leg, and I think an eye, maybe.
When they're making How the West Was Won.
Yeah, he was making How the West Was Won, and it went horribly wrong. And that studio, it's MGM. They refused to take responsibility for that, and they refused to like things are different now.
Yeah, very different.
There's there's workplace safeties and stuff, but she had to go to work to do this, to pay the bills.
Have you done that show, Roy? Have you done How the West Was Won?
No.
That's kind of sci-fi.
I'd be happy.
If you watched it, it had a lot of science fiction, steampunk for sure.
Oh, steampunk.
Hey, if you don't do it, I'll do it.
Can I be a guest?
It's a great show. I love it. That was one of the ones I really loved as a kid.
Oh, you're talking about
the show being on.
I was talking about the movie
show or the movie.
Oh, you're talking about the movie.
The movie.
The husband I was working on the actual movie.
But still, the TV show was excellent.
Okay, all right. Like Wild Wild West was.
That's something we haven't done yet, which definitely have to come.
Wild Wild West. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm sorry.
That's
definitely sci-fi.
That's what I was thinking.
Wild Wild West is sci-fi. If you do the old Wild Wild West, we'll do one of the new Wild Wild Wests, which I don't want to do.
Well, the Will Smith one just wasn't.
Oh,
it was Will Smith.
You don't want to speak of that.
Oh.
Nothing against Will Smith.
I like Will Smith.
Fine actor. The movie. Horrid.
Hated that movie. It was awful.
No,
I mean, not to go down that road, but Sherry's asking, are you supposed to be the priest from The Exorcist or from The Omen?
That's what I am.
Definitely The Omen.
Yeah. Thanks, Ross.
Well, would you be the old priest or the young priest, Roy?
I know. Would you be Max von Sydow or Jason Miller?
But you know what's hysterical? Probably out of both those actors, I'm probably older than they both were in that movie. So I'm going to go with the old priest, Mike.
You're going to be the old priest.
So you're Max von Sydow.
Yeah, I'm Max von Sydow.
We'll powder your hair so you
can. Oh, Mega Man.
Omega Man.
Yeah, my mom was watching Dracula with me, and my dad took me to see Omega Man.
And he's scarred for life.
Classic Charlton Heston.
Bruce is saying, Randy, my son has Down syndrome, and he loves this stuff.
He might like the new Rob Zombie one. It's safe for kids. And
yeah, definitely.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't go black and white with it, though. Honestly,
no, there was a reason. I was watching about it. There was a reason why. Let me think about that for a second. I'll try to remember why Rob Zombie didn't do black and white.
Bruce commented. He said, "I completely disagree. Streaming TV is as big as feature films." So yeah, I mean, things have changed. I mean, that's true. Colin is saying, "Colin, welcome to the show. I'm loving the Catwoman costume." Meow.
Colin. Meow.
Just for you.
Now, he'll be in his bunk.
Do I get one?
Sorry. Forget about my show.
Hey, and I want to share some more pictures too. Hang on one second, just so we can see what the actors look like when they weren't in costume.
Oh, we know what Fred looks like. He did a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm going to go back. Here's Fred, and then there's Yvonne DiCarlo. So
she was a beautiful girl.
Yeah, she was. She was 42 when she did this show.
Yeah.
Fred was already tall and slight, but he was wearing so many pounds of like heavy rubber and he would sweat all day, and he just lost weight.
I'll give him credit too. The makeup was pretty darn good for.
Yeah, you know what? I was looking at it. I was like, wow, they look.
They did a really good job on
him. I could kind of see like.
I know it was black and white, so
you really know what to look for. But yeah.
Yeah.
But his makeup was really good.
Thanks, Christian.
Yeah, so it's only 40.
That's I was only 40. So you're definitely the old priest.
Yeah, the old priest. Now here is another. Going to the next slide. Now here's Al Lewis, his grandpa, and then Al Lewis is Al Lewis. Now this is Beverly.
Do you remember what Al Lewis?
Beverly with the dark hair.
Beverly with the dark hair, yeah, and then as Beverly Owens, and then with her with the wig.
Yeah. Do you remember Al Lewis with Howard Stern? Do you remember this?
I read about it. I didn't see him on Howard Stern, but I heard
everybody.
You know what was interesting?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt your
no, that's okay. We can't say what he was chanting anyway, but
that's okay.
But
he being fresh.
Yeah, he never got in trouble for it.
Yeah.
And
then there's
like Mary Beth said, I think as a kid, I never realized that they changed Maryland's.
Very similar.
I had no idea.
They were so similar. I had no idea. Look at them. My God, they look so much alike.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do. And you know what Pat says? They said they just put out the doorstay. The ad was like looking for a doorstay type blonde, the girl next door, and she went down and she fit all of her clothes. So okay, you're in.
She did 13 episodes, and I guess what was happening is she was from New York, and then she was commuting to LA back and forth. She was
engaged.
Yeah.
I guess, and she was missing her husband or
time. Yeah.
They say she cried every day. And so again, Fred and Al went to the producer. Okay, let this girl out of her contract. She's crying. They let her out. She went home. She married the fiance. He was a writer for Sesame Street. But what did they do? They blacklisted her. She never worked again.
Yeah.
No.
I didn't realize that. It's like one of those things where you hope your series is going to hit. Like every actor is like, oh, I hope my series hits.
I mean, she had it.
Steady work.
She could that out. You like almost never hear about something like this happening today.
Yeah. So she gets.
No woman would be like, oh, I got to go back to New York for my.
I go home and get married. Yeah. And young. She was young too, because Pat was a little bit older. And then when they did the movie, they just slid Pat out and brought another girl in because Pat was like 29. Like she was almost 30. But she was crushed. She was like shattered and crushed because she'd been doing she'd done their whole run with them and done the first movie with them, or was that?
No, that was the first.
That was the first movie. Yeah.
So it's almost like, and what happened was because it ended in '66 and they went to do the movie. There was hardly any time in between that. So the fact that they pretty much pushed her to the side, they were trying to bring in this other woman, Debbie, and I forget what her
last Debbie something. She was only 17, which I get. I guess the character is young, but whatever. It was working for Pat. She was doing good.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, Fred and Al tried to get them to change their minds,
but she landed on her feet. She went from there right away into Easy Come, Easy Go with Elvis. So, and then he sold her his Eldorado Cadillac. So it all worked out.
and then the incredible two-headed transplant with Bruce Dern.
Oh,
Debbie Watson. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
And Casey Kasem.
Oh, funny.
Jack is commenting. Jack Daly saying, Fred drank gallons of lemonade to hydrate himself after sweating all day in his house. Could you imagine all that chatting and everything?
He lost a lot of weight during this.
Yeah, he's really slight. If you see behind the scenes shots and you look at Fred, he's so slight. Like there's nothing to him.
He's very skinny guy.
Nothing's so hydrating as lemonade.
Yeah, lemonade is
it's not
I don't think they had Gatorade back then, so
it's not a diet
light or whatever.
Have some more sugar, Fred.
It was the Gatorade of the day.
Gatorade of the day.
You know what I always thought was interesting, and maybe they addressed this and I don't remember, but Marilyn character obviously is human in the sense that she's not some kind of supernatural. And yet she doesn't see her family as abnormal from anybody else. Like she always just describes them to her boyfriends. They're very nice people. Like, oh, by the way, they're undead.
Very matter of fact.
I'm like, it was like she never like. Did you not notice that they were kind of,
Yeah, that's a great question about Marilyn because that's what Lily says all the time. Poor Marilyn. So clearly, within the context of the family, she must see herself
And
as the
they
oddball.
had
But
her
when she goes
brainwashed.
out
They
into
thought-
the world and sees the rest of humanity,
But they made comments about her being like unattractive.
yeah, oh,
I know, the
poor.
gaslighting
Like,
the
the
whole
black
time.
And she used to buy that. I know, it's amazing. I have this boyfriend
Can't
because
believe I've got
like
a
I'm so
boyfriend
ugly.
the way I am.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Well, there's all kinds of sly commentary in there where the neighbors are all like, here goes the neighborhood, there goes the neighborhood kind of thing, or they join the country club. Oh, we don't like their kind here.
That was like actual social commentary. Like they were actually commenting on. And actually, you know what, you guys, that still is applicable today. Some of those comments,
absolutely.
like, people are still like that. So yeah, it was very.
Roy, I have a question for
timely.
you. Did you time the episode number so that it was close to the address of the Munsters?
Is it 1313?
Oh, it's 1330. Why did I thought it was 66? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a number.
1313. You're right. It was 1313, Mike. I thought it was
the Addams family that lived at 666.
Never mind.
Remember.
I'm sorry. I
all right.
haven't had enough. I'm gonna drink
Have
more.
another drink, Rizzo.
Another drink.
Have some more lemonade.
Just ignore me. Yeah, lemonade.
Somebody put lemonade in my lemonade.
Matt being Matt, if Roy plays Max, he must not only say the power of Christ compels you, but also if Matt.
This great line from
Put
Hannah.
it down. Get rid of that. Don't show that. Quickly. Wait a minute. Roy, you're supposed to read the comments before you share them.
Yeah. Matt gets a free
vetting.
pass. Matt gets a free pass once per show, and that was
One per show.
Okay, folks. Roy's
just
not
use
vetting the comments. Have at it.
I'm just reading the in between stuff here.
Yeah, but anyway.
That's an actual line that Max von Sydow said. So, yeah.
Randy's saying I met Herman. I got short circuited on the Munster references.
Would you? Oh, yeah. Would you believe that my newspaper editor once had lunch with Fred Gwynn and Charles Adams at the same time? So he had the Munsters and the Adams family connection.
What? Oh, I wonder. Wow, they must have known each other. Surely they knew each other. Fred and Charles. They were in the.
I guess they did. So, but they're.
I mean, Charles technically wasn't in the industry. He was a
cartoon.
That was a cartoon. That was a newspaper cartoon, wasn't it?
New Yorker. Yeah.
The New Yorker.
Yeah.
But I guess
And
once
that's what they actually
make
started
your thing
with
into a
this,
TV show, suddenly you're in the industry. So
Maybe you like Fred because he's from Harvard. It's like, yeah, New Yorker, Harvard, whatever.
it's all the same.
But this was their version because Charles Adams, who did the Adams Family, that was kind of like the lead-in because they were doing their own thing, and Universal owned the rights in regards to the studio, in regards to Dracula,
the likenesses of Dracula and the monster, Frankenstein's monster, and it's funny. It's funny that they made such a big deal out of it because the only one that's really close to the movie Monsters is Fred's, a similarity to Frankenstein's monster. They really take a lot of liberties with Grandpa's the Count. And, Lily has a little bit of the bride going there with the streak, but maybe not.
Eddie's a little
werewolfy, But,
yeah, that was always my question. Was he supposed to be a werewolf or was he supposed to be a vampire?
I think he's supposed to be both.
Kind of go back and forth.
Yeah.
The only big character they were missing was a mummy. They didn't really have a mummy.
No.
Well, didn't they have? I might be wrong about this because I didn't get to watch all the episodes, but I know John Carradine was in a lot of episodes, and he turns up as the creature from the Black Lagoon in one of them. Yeah. He does the voice, but I don't remember now about a mummy.
They had Spot who lived under the stairs.
Yeah,
Spot like a dragon.
As a kid, we always waited for Spot. Yeah,
Spot was the best. Spot was one of the better parts of the show.
And I love that. They would build the tail to go into the kitchen, mostly under the steps. But I love also how they have. Oh, yeah, there you go. Great. I love how they have the projection of the cardboard, kind of the dorsal.
Yeah, you only see him. You never see all of Spot.
Yeah, they show the silhouette on the stair.
Yeah.
The
Rob Zombie movie is how they meet and fall in love and get married and find Spot. So,
so interestingly enough, you remember the clock, which had the Raven.
Well, there you go.
The Raven's voice was Mel Blanc.
Yeah.
Was it really?
Right. Yeah.
Nevermore.
Uncredited. There he is. Yeah.
And Igor.
Yeah.
Igor's in the movie. The Swamp Thing is in the movie, the Rob Zombie movie. Sorry, I got Rob Zombie on the brain.
That's all right.
The Tin Man is in the Rob Zombie movie.
Dennis Chevalier is commenting about Bill Mumy was a special guest. And interesting enough, Bill Mumy was actually got the part of Eddie Munster, but his parents did not want him to do that role because of the makeup that was going to be involved with everything. So what happened was he did have a guest spot in which he was in one episode, which growing up I thought was the cool thing because, we all knew Bill Mumy from Lost in Space. And I think if I remember correctly, because I didn't watch the episode recently, he plays almost like a spoiled brat in that specific episode that's taunting Eddie. And going back to that, in the original pilot or the original presentation, Eddie was not.
Eddie was Happy Durham.
Yes.
Durham.
And his character was a lot more angry, very spoiled.
Oh, yeah.
The character, the kid played it. This kid, Happy, his name is Nate. Happy Durman. He played it like a feral dog. There was snarling. You can find a clip of it on YouTube. There was snarling. There was a lot of teeth showing. And I was looking through interviews, and was it Al? One of them was like, yeah, Happy wasn't really happy. He wasn't a happy kid. I felt so bad. I don't know whatever became of poor Happy, but.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything else on the internet with him.
No, I found nothing.
So no mummies, but a Mumy we got.
Poor Happy.
That's what he was saying.
They gave it to Eddie. Eddie played it. Not Eddie. Sorry, Butch. They gave it to Butch, but Butch played it straight, any other, Leave It to Beaver, like any other normal suburban kid, and off it went.
Yeah. Now, Butch Patrick, I should mention, runs the website, the official Munsters.
Yes,
website.
Munsters.com. But that's Butch doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can. Here's the cool thing about is you can go check out and see the coach because that tours. You can go check out and see Dragula because that tours. And if you want to go to the Munsters set tour, you can go to Waxahachie, Texas, and see the Munsters house. Apparently, some couple built the whole house outside and inside, and they open it up. They open it on Halloween. They open it for special occasions. They open it for tours. So, we've got the Star Trek set tour. They've got the Munsters set tour.
Interesting enough, too, on the Universal lot, I
don't have to keep it clean.
Desperate Housewives actually they actually
used the house. They repainted it.
Yeah, and that's where it is. Hey, my mom's out there. I just want to say hi to my mom, Betty. Welcome, Mom. And she commented. She just texted me. She said that she forgot about Lily being Yvonne DiCarlo. So yeah, because I used to watch this all the time, growing up, obviously. So just wanted to send my love to my mom. So I'm glad she's out there watching us. Sue's commenting, saying, "Wow, neat! The Munsters set tour. How cool!"
There are other set tours. There's the Christmas Story. That house is a set. It's a house tour,
right?
And there's a couple other set tours that exist out there. I don't know why in my brain I was like, we're the only one.
Wait a minute, Marybeth, did you say the Christmas Story set tour?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a.
I've never seen that movie. Sherry and I have never seen it. It's almost like on the anti-bucket list now at this point. I've never actually seen that.
You have to see it.
You have to watch it. You have to watch that, and you have to watch Die Hard.
A new one's coming out. Yeah, you gotta watch Die Hard. That's a Christmas story. No, you gotta watch Die Hard. It's awesome. It's funny. It's nostalgic as hell, but for an older generation.
It's funny. I don't want to get off too much tangent on that, but my father, who's 80, going to be 86. Well, he's 86 now. TBS would always run that, so we just throw it on, at Christmas Day when we're having dinner or whatever. And he would sit there and he'd comment, "Oh yeah, that's exactly what it." I remember the Macy's window. I remember that's what it was like. That because he grew up in that exact era, and it's funny. So, but it's a funny movie.
Darren McGavin, right?
Right.
Yeah. Hey, I want to welcome Paul Miller. Paul's out there. Paul, hope you're doing well. Thanks for being out there. He said, I forgot who played Zombo.
Zombo. He's in the Rob Zombie movie.
Yeah, Rob Zombie's got all of his.
My favorite Marx brother. But he was only in the vaudeville version. He was never made the movies. No, I'm just kidding.
Randy's saying, I live near the Munsters house in Texas. It's great.
Oh, cool. Well, let us know when they open it up for its next event. That would be cool.
Whereabouts in Texas, Randy? Let us know.
Waxahachie.
Is that near Austin?
Can you tell us where Waxahachie is?
Yeah, I don't know where that's at.
I have no idea.
It's in Texas, apparently.
Yeah, well, Texas is pretty big. Jeff is saying, I can't watch a Christmas story
bunny
much
suit.
like a real childhood, minus the bunny suit.
Did you go to a Chinese restaurant for Christmas dinner?
Because the the Bupkis dogs.
The Bumpkiss,
Yeah. The hounds.
the Bumpus.
Bumpus
Our neighbors
hounds.
had 1,004 smelly dogs, and they ignored every other human being on Earth
It's
except my dad.
smiling at me.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Okay. You can't even do that. I
That's
guess
common.
that's not PC.
He said, I saw
Far-right,
John
yeah.
Astin do a 90-minute one-man show detailing the life of Edgar Allan Poe. He did the show in his late 70s. Astin was spectacular and recited all of Poe's major works while performing every other character in the autobiography.
John Astin was awesome.
John Astin was awesome.
He's awesome. You know who's also awesome? Sean Astin. Also awesome.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, he's saying near Austin. The reason why I'm asking is because that's where my son lives when he's not commuting all over the place. He's
Send him on a little scouting mission. Say, go, scout it out, report back.
I'll talk to Ryan about that. So very interesting. I think that would be kind of cool to go through if you think about it, right?
Oh yeah.
Your mention of the Munster coach and the Dragula, just they was had such a blast making this show. I mean, every aspect of it was just you could tell they had a good time.
The coach.
Well, the hot rods was kind of a thing. Yeah, I mean,
there was the Monkey Mobile. You had the Monkey Mobile.
You had the Batmobile.
Well, they were mostly it was mostly George Barris,
Barris
making these things.
There was the Beverly Hillbillies.
This was actually two cars put together.
Yeah, it was several. Yeah, you had a couple Model Ts. You had the
but there was actually two physical cars that they matched. Yeah, it was two. I think is what the information that I read that they somehow mushed together. But
actually, you know what?
It's an amazing car.
It is an amazing car, and the Dragula was a real coffin. It was an actual coffin.
I love the coach lights on the front and everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the radiator is like
way
like
up in the back. Yeah, it's not even a rumble seat. It's just like this extra add-on.
Yeah, it's like another part of the car. Yeah,
up in the back, like up high.
Christian's commenting saying, "How about Gwen in Pet Cemetery and My Cousin Vinny?" Let me
tell
you something.
Yeah, no, you go.
I was just going to say, interesting story about Pet Cemetery. It was funny because Vince, who's out there, and myself, and we actually went to a Star Trek creation convention. It was in 1988 in Connecticut, and Denise Crosby was there. And she had literally just gotten the script for Pet Cemetery, and she said she was reading it in her room, and it was really like starting to freak her out and everything as she was going through it. And it was something that stuck with me in regards to that. Vince, you remember that? Just putting it out there. But that was I thought he was great in that. And then the other thing with Pets, in regards to My Cousin Vinny playing the judge, he was.
Yeah, I thought he stole the movie. I mean, he underplayed the whole thing.
Yeah,
but I thought he was the funniest part of the movie. Actually,
he was great. And you know, he got a little bit typecast after Herman.
Yeah.
You know, he'd go in for auditions, and the people would be like, Herman Munster in this role? I don't think so. And that's awful. Like, he was clearly capable. We've lost Rizzo. He was clearly capable of great. Oh, there he is. Great, dramatic. He could do good dramatic performances. Yeah.
His first movie was on the waterfront.
Yeah.
I mean, a small part, but
he was a good-looking guy too in the day.
Well, he was saying he went for an audition, and I guess what happened was they didn't refer to him as Fred Gwynn. They referred to him as Herman Munster, and then what he wound up doing is he just stormed out. He was totally upset.
Yeah.
Later in life, though, he said that he really came to terms with it, and he really felt that the character was very, a character that you could embrace and was really like a good guy. And it's good that he actually, felt better about it.
That's a common theme we hear with a lot of actors that become, I don't want to say typecast, but they're known for a specific role.
The Star Trek,
for instance,
Star Wars.
They tend to rebel against it because as actors, this was a job.
Right.
And it wasn't their whole being. And eventually they come around to the fact when they get older saying, okay, I am Spock. I am
Luke Skywalker.
I am James T. Kirk. I mean, they all rebelled against their famous role.
Yeah, they all have that arc.
Because they want to get away from it. They want to separate themselves from it, but they always seem to come back realizing that that's your cash cow, buddy.
But here's where it made it even worse, though. And in regards, because you're saying about cash cow, it wasn't a cash cow for them because it was in the 60s. And what happened is, in regards to residuals, they would show those episodes 5 or 6 times, and then that was it. Could you imagine the money that they would have made if they were getting
Kind of yes and kind of no. They merchandised the heck out of this thing right off the bat, which was a little unusual for the day. And they also had them doing appearances, like a lot of appearances, way more than any other show. And
True.
the other thing is, did you see that interview with, it was either Pat or Butch or something? They're like, yeah, it was a really popular stop on there was like the tour bus that would go through Universal Studios.
Yeah.
And we'd be filming, and they'd have to be like, hold for bus. Here comes the bus and all the tourists. So I don't know, man. I think
I think that goes to the time. Again, TV was still new. The agents weren't, these people that the studio still had more power than the actors did.
Pay me for this.
You know what I'm saying? And I think it became later. And then remember, syndication really didn't become a thing till like Star Trek.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So there was no even talk of residuals because there weren't going to be any.
Right. But my point is, though, that if they did have the residuals that were everlasting like it is now, they would have all been millionaires. And I think that in terms of actually getting, if you're being, typecast and you can't get other work, it's bad because you're not able to fulfill what your passion is. You're not able to, fulfill the art of acting and to do different characters. But at least in the back of your mind, you're being compensated, and at least you have that as a cushion.
And in the instance of Fred, I mean, I'm sorry. Anytime we saw Fred after the Munsters, we saw Herman Munster.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, he had very distinct.
Even at Cousin Vinny, Herman Munster was the judge.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Which was one of his great roles. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he was fabulous.
Pat and Butch make the rounds now. They are on the circuit. So they, coming to an event, coming to, whatever Comic-Con near you. So at least they're finally
right.
That's definitely helped them. And if you think about it too, a lot of times, a lot of the actors that we've met, like, from the Star Trek series and everything, the personal appearances that they do at the conventions, probably, exactly. The money that they're making from that is opposed to doing the shows. In the back.
It depends, because I've talked to several of them, and it depends on who they are. Obviously, our big actors are always making big money.
Yeah,
the smaller guys, they're actually like, you go to Star Trek Las Vegas, and you go into that dealer room, and you see all those actors out there with their table and their autographs, and with the exception of the big actors like the TNG actors or those people are paying for those tables.
Yeah, that's true. They do.
I remember talking to Felix Silla.
They'll make bank. I
talked to Felix Silla, and I remember he had come to one of our Trek Conderogas, and which was unusual for him, because the only reason I even do Star Trek Las Vegas is because I live in Las Vegas. Because otherwise, any of these other Comic-Cons, he had, like San Diego, he didn't go to because he's like, I had to travel to San Diego. I had to get myself a hotel room. I had to pay for the table. By the time I'm done paying for all that, I got to sell a lot of autographs just to break even.
Yeah. They're in a deficit right from the start, and they're not even there yet. Exactly.
Right.
I did want to go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No,
I did want to mention that in contrast to Fred Gwynn, Al Lewis totally embraced Grandpa. Any opportunity, anybody called him Grandpa, he's like, well, where's my check? He was just Grandpa for the rest of his life. He said, yeah, of course, I'll be Grandpa. Yeah, it's great to be recognized. And then later he became a Green Party candidate for the governor of New York.
He was an activist. He was a political activist. He had the Green Party thing.
Yeah.
He had the restaurant, which we mentioned, Grandpa's something. I don't remember.
Right. And a recurring guest on Howard Stern.
Yeah.
And recurring guest
always pushing the limits and getting Howard, in trouble with the FCC.
But he was always in the news, though, in New York, though, because they were always commenting about his place and very welcoming and everything. There was a quote that was or not a quote. He was interviewed, and it was in the Daily Variety. And I wanted to read this. He wrote, when we can do a lot of satirical pointed things on society that you couldn't do on any ordinary show. Lewis also said, philosophically, the format is that in spite of the way people look to you physically underneath, there is a heart of gold.
Yeah.
The Munsters reflected changes in social attitudes during the civil rights era. And in 2020, the speech Herman makes to Eddie in the 1965 episode, Eddie's Nickname, went viral.
Yes. I was going to talk about that. It's 30 seconds. It's what I want you to know is that it doesn't matter what you're on the outside. You could be red, green, orange, purple, yellow. It's the content. Yes, that is the most seen of all the Munsters clips that I looked up while I was preparing for the show. That is the most seen, and it's just this little snippet.
It says,
you know, you guys, I'll put the link. I've got it. I'll put the link over in the Facebook chat if you guys want to see it. It is the heart of the show.
Yeah, so, share it with the folks. I'm just going to read it, and then what they can do is they can check it out later. And the quote is, "The lesson I want you to learn," and this is Herman saying this to Eddie. "The lesson I want you to learn is that it doesn't matter what you look like, whether you are tall or short or fat or thin or ugly or handsome, like your father, or you can be black or yellow or white. It doesn't matter. What matters is the size of your heart and the strength of your character." Wow. You know, 1965, and it, you know, and something like that is so powerful, and no wonder it, you know, it did what went viral and did what it did. So thanks for sharing that, Marybeth. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's cute.
And you know, it makes sense that they were, again, because that was a time of civil rights. And so there was a lot of Star Trek, you know, as being one of them, was trying to forward that I don't want to say agenda because that sounds negative, but you know what I'm saying? They're trying to forward that feeling that we are all created equal, and it doesn't really matter what you are on the outside.
But those words completely ring true today.
It does still ring true today, but it makes sense that they would have written that then as well. Yeah. You know, I don't find it as shocking because it does ring true for that era as well as this one.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Very powerful.
In addition to it being a subversion of your 1950s sitcom, it was also, in that sense, you know, mildly progressive. It's funny that you know, I'm thinking about the show as a subversive show from that angle, but then I start thinking about other shows that came before, and I mean, so it's a high concept. You've got the nuclear family with the crazy relative grandpa living in this mansion, and they're all vampires and werewolves and what have you. But you go back and you've got, you know, the Flintstones. You got the family in the Stone Age. You've got the Jetsons, you know, Hanna-Barbera. You've got Bewitched. You know, you've got this was in the air. You know, it's like, how else can we spin these plots that we've been recycling?
But notice that they're all still what was accepted in the day as the nuclear family. It's all mother, father, 2.3 children, and a grandparent.
And your phonograph with the bird with the beat that plays the records. It's a living.
Yeah.
Well, the Flintstones was a direct parody of the Honeymooners.
It all goes back to the Honeymooners.
Yeah, the Flintstones was
the two sitcoms. Everything goes back. It's the Honeymooners or I Love Lucy.
I Love Lucy, right?
And the Munsters really lays into that whole Honeymooners thing. Although Fred's not quite as obnoxious as Ralph could be. But he does get the moments where he gets an inflated sense of self, and then the comeuppance at the end of the episode. Yeah.
But they're a loving, you know what though? There's a lot of love and a lot of respect for each other. Which is it's
Fred's a sweetheart.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I just want to say hi to Gwen. My friend from work, Gwen, is joining us. She's saying hi, Ross and Ross. I think she meant hi, Ross.
Evil twin.
love everyone's costumes tonight.
Ross and Ross show.
Yeah, it's the Ross and Ross show. Thanks for joining us,
That
Gwen.
would be scary.
You and Jerry are doing well, and thanks for being out there. Sue's commenting. Sue wrote a small novel. She said, "The thing about actors wanting to get away from a role, while I can sort of understand it, there are so many actors that spend their entire careers hoping for a role that there will be remembered for long after the show when the movie is gone, and or a role that is considered iconic to the culture of the times." No, very, very true. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Do you have an episode that really stood out, that really you liked, or maybe, I know you haven't maybe seen all of them, you know, since we said we were going to do this, but is there one that, or maybe two, that really resonated with you, or that, you know, you enjoyed a lot?
That's a good question. I watched a whole bunch of season one. Season one included the one with the wrecking ball. They were going to come. There was twice they were going to take the house away from them. They're always trying to get the house for some reason.
Yeah.
Not sure why. And then the episode where Grandpa, they go camping. I don't know why, but Grandpa turns himself into a wolf and he can't change back. And to sneak him out, I don't know why they're like, oh, we caught this wolf. We can't. So to sneak him out, she's wearing him around her neck like one of those
like a
kind of stoles.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, Grandpa. And they just cast like an Eskimo. What do you call those? A Malamute. They cast a Malamute or whatever as Grandpa.
Grandpa's or there's the one where he breaks into the sorority and he can't turn back into a bat. He thinks he's a bat. He's jumping up and down on the bed. I'm a bat. That Grandpa boy. He did that on purpose.
A lot of there was the one where Herman, we talked about kind of the formulaic. The one where Herman, for some reason, Marilyn's college tuition wasn't paid. I don't remember what the gist of that was, but he goes and they're like, "Oh yeah, you'll be great," and they end up putting him on the basketball team.
Well, that kind of like you're saying, it's problematic. It's like he starts out with one destination where he's going to do one thing, and then he gets totally sidetracked. And then next thing you know, he's going there to help Marilyn. And next thing you know, he's being signed up, and they're telling him to sign the contract and everything. And he's like, "You mean everything's going to be taken care of?" And they're like, "Oh yeah." You're
trying to think if there were. Then it just got silly. I watched the one where she got the car, where she went and bought the car. And he thought they were having another baby.
Yeah.
And then Eddie has this little basically a wind up Frankenstein, and he sees the wind up Frankenstein going like that. He thinks it's the child. I'm like, what? Like, that was a stretch. Even for 1964, that's a big stretch.
Yeah,
it's not that dumb. Yeah. I don't know that they should have played him quite that dumb.
Well, he's guileless. He's a child, you know. It was very funny. Child, actually.
Yeah.
And I think
that aspect of the show was funny. Yeah. Some of it was just like eye rolling, but
they definitely got sillier like, this was more season 1, but in the second season. And I think I remember reading too that Fred Gwynn and also Al Lewis were complaining, to the producers because they didn't like the direction the writing was going into. And then also Batman really was affecting them, which is kind of a tribute, with Catwoman.
Well, who would watch? I mean, Yvonne was lovely, but when you've got Julie Newmar running around in a cat suit, my God, was there any competition?
Well, any of the Catwomen.
Any of the Catwomen, Eartha Kitt, Lee Merriweather,
Merriweather,
Batman came along in '66 and proceeded to whoop everybody's ass. Like all channels turned to Batman.
And they were a mid-season replacement.
Color, it was in color. It had celebrity guest stars. It was campy and fun. I don't know why people just.
It was fresh and it was different, and it was something that really it was like Batmania came in, and the Munsters would have been in the second half, would have been in the second half of their second season. So what was happening is they pretty much were starting to wind down, and here comes in Batman full force and was stealing the ratings. And eventually what happened was they bottomed out as low as they got, and then headed for cancellation.
Were they up against each other?
Yeah.
At the same time,
they were against all those kids.
7:30. Yeah.
All those kids that were watching the second season of the Munsters
suddenly
jumped to Batman
over right after,
and really you can't blame them because, like you said, here you have this bigger than life characters, color, just action.
Bam.
If you want to call it action, but wham bam, but there's still action. I mean, there's just so many things, and that just sprinkling of little bit of sexuality thrown in there for the adolescents.
Sort of.
Well, what's interesting is
Adam West's part, but.
No, I mean on people like Julie
part.
Newmar and all the female villains were, and come on, we all loved Batgirl.
Oh yeah, that was later.
I used to watch it
just to see
Batgirl.
Yeah, Yvonne was adorable.
Yvonne was amazing. So
she danced with the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
She didn't put those skills to good use as the Green Orion girl in whichever episode that was.
God's Destroy.
Yeah, we have God's Destroy. Yeah.
Right, third season.
But it's funny they had so many guest artists on the Munsters. You have people like Harvey Korman. Yeah, Paul Lynde.
You did have Harvey Korman in there.
Frank Gorshin was in an episode.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Richard Deacon.
All these
Carmel. Yeah, Charlie Callis.
But at that time, they weren't really super famous. They were pretty much almost day workers.
They're making the rounds.
They were making the rounds.
Making the rounds.
If we look at them now, it's like, hey, Harvey Korman was in that episode.
Right. Oh,
but back in the 60s, people were like, who the hell's Harvey Korman?
Yeah.
And I have to say that was one of the worst episodes. I was very disappointed in that episode.
I mean, Harvey Korman was on Carol Burnett. You know, that's where we saw how funny he was.
With, you needed Tim Conway.
To Wiggins.
Right. But before he got on in the Mel Brooks things, hey Hoyman,
right?
I know what's his grandpa.
Count the money, Demonet.
What did you put that up for, Roy?
I don't know. I hit the wrong button.
He's not betting.
Robin,
Maggie just lost her comment for next week.
I know. But by the time you get to Batman, it becomes a hip show, and then when people show up in these cameo roles. You know, I mean, it becomes very competitive. You ever remember
Lula Bankhead? Was she in this stuff?
She was the Black Widow. She was actually in Batman.
Was she really?
Yeah.
So not only the guest star as villains, but
Lula was more like at her peak in the 20s or something. Oh well.
She was older in the 40s.
Yeah.
She was probably like 56.
But she was around. I know that's the thing. Right? That's what you find out.
Right?
Yeah, the point where you realize like all these people have fought in World War II in the 70s and were like 50. It's like what? Yeah,
Matt, we did talk about the original Lily in the pilot.
Yeah, we did.
You missed it.
It was right at the top of the show. Joan Marshall.
Yeah, Joan Marshall.
Yeah. Did you get the part where Matt actually worked with Grandpa? He was in a production of Androcles and the Lion with not Al Lewis, but Dan Roebuck.
Yes, you know what?
Pennsylvania Playhouse. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, actually, hold on a second. We can go back. We will give Matt a.
No, you don't have to.
No, I already
give Matt his hour in the sun.
He said I acted with Dan Roebuck in 53 performances of Androcles and the Lion.
Androcles and the Lion. Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
So give us the dirt, Matt. Give us the dirt.
Yeah, get him revved up, Ross. There you go. Oh boy.
You know what I'm drinking here? I've got this brawler. Anybody ever have a brawler? Look, this guy's like, can you see it? He's fighting Satan.
It's a vampire. It's like it's disappearing.
Yeah, I know.
No, I assume that's beer.
So what? Oh yeah, so
Philly made.
Oh, okay, local, nice.
You know what? I don't even like Philly, but you know I'm the baseball bat.
Pretzels and steak sandwiches, right?
I lived in Philly for 32 years, so I got a bone to pick.
There you go.
I got a nice bell, I hear.
Yes, they couldn't even do that right.
They broke it.
They broke it.
Right.
Got cracked.
Been cracking it.
Going down. One of the episodes that I enjoyed was Happy 100th Anniversary, and this is where they were actually going to be celebrating their 100th anniversary, Lily and Herman. And what they did was they actually went to get part-time jobs to kind of get the other one a present. And then both of them thought that the other person was forgetting their anniversary.
It's the gift of the Magi. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, go ahead.
Which was I thought was really cute.
The other cute one I saw was Lily. It was a Lily show. She became a model. She did some modeling. Mm. Oh, I know why I remember that show. It was Harry Mudd. Harry Mudd was the guy that hired her.
He was in the actor.
To do his modeling. And he's like, I need someone different. And I'm just looking, I'm like, it's Harry Mudd.
Mm-hmm. I'll have to go back and watch that. I knew that he was in it, but I didn't see that recently.
Now,
do you remember this one where just another pretty face and I remember this from when I was a kid where he actually gets struck by lightning and then he's like, they're horrified that he's all disfigured.
He's normal,
he got to be Fred Gwynn for an episode. Yeah. That was really cool.
That's funny. Now, to show how recent the show actually is, I remember being in grade school. This is back when I was in March school on College Hill. So it was before 5th grade. And the librarian showing us a picture in a book of what these guys look like without their makeup, the Munsters. It was a Munsters book. But it's like, oh, look, this is what he looks like without the makeup. And we thought, wow. And I'm thinking, this old show that I watch. And I realize now it was like 8 years before or something,
That crazy.
But I was such a little kid. It just seemed like ancient history,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was an amusing episode. Also, appropriately for the World Series, did you see Herman the Rookie, where he plays the ball player?
Oh, right. I remember it.
No.
Where he winds up clubbing Leo DeRusha with the baseball. He hits it like 8 blocks, and knocks out the manager of the Dodgers. So they say, "Who is that hitter?" And they sign him, of course.
Of course.
but then they can't let him play because
It's like a Happy Gilmore thing.
Yeah, because it's going to cost $70 million to repair the ballpark every time Herman plays, so they couldn't keep him. Yeah. Wah, wah.
Nah.
Like I said, it's so funny because I know these shows were probably, these stories were fresh in 1966, 64, but we keep seeing them reuse these themes in modern shows over again.
Even for this show,
Family Guy, Peter got to go play for the Patriots. We see that. It seems, I think Homer got a stint, I think, as a football player or something. It's the same. It's kind of the same thing.
Family Guy and The Simpsons are kind of self-aware. They're being ironic in those shows because they're drawing on all these.
Yeah, I suppose.
Because they're how McFarlane is.
Yeah. It was kind of fresh, but it kind of wasn't. Because again, as we mentioned, this was originally meant to be satire of those wholesome Leave It to Beaver, Donna Reed, etc. shows. They were kind of recycling some of their script ideas too, and just saying, well, how would this family tackle that? So kind of yes, kind of no.
I think we've gotten to the point in the world where a unique story is pretty rare.
Yeah, it all goes back to Shakespeare.
No matter what genre you pick, science fiction, drama, comedy.
That is something that comes up on our show a lot, like the lack of originality.
Yeah, it's just
we can only wrap it so many different ways. That's
well,
what it is.
Yeah, and look at how many times they keep going back to the well.
Well, there's also there's going to, running the well dry, but there's also archetypes, and I mean, I don't want to make this sound like
journey. Yeah,
I don't want to make this sound like it's Odysseus or anything coming back from the Trojan War or anything like that. But there's certain reasons that these. Well, in the case of sitcoms, it's probably lack of originality. It's not anything archetypal or anything that resonates with our human experience. Why is our civilization, our Western civilization, what it is? Well, let's go back to the Munsters and find out.
What does it all mean?
Yeah.
What does it all mean, if anything?
And here's a couple more shots of them at the in the house. It's just being a normal everyday family, sort of.
It was cute. They did actually do fairly normal things, as opposed to the Addams Family, who were doing
Yeah, that's one of the things I loved about the Addams Family. That's one of the things I loved about the Addams Family is like the stuff that they would do. Like the daughter was always trying to kill the brother. She's always trying to murder him in some or hurt him in some way. And the mother was just like, no, we can't revive him again. It's like it was a little darker than this was.
Yeah, they leaned goth and dark.
Yeah, it was much darker. It wouldn't say much darker, but it was definitely darker.
I mean, I'll be honest with you though. I enjoyed watching both of these shows. I mean, I used to watch
absolutely
religiously too. I mean, it was almost like they were on back to back, and it was like early morning, especially like during the summertime. You'd watch them, and this is the time where they would show like Star Trek would be on 5 days a week. It would be on like at 6 o'clock at night on Channel 11. Lost in Space would be on Channel 5 out of New York at like 3 o'clock. I remember getting home right after school, and then
it was on after school. That
watched immediately. Yeah,
we should all of us be grateful for syndication because without syndication, these shows would have been lost. And syndication is kind of what saved the show. It's what gives it the popularity that it enjoys today.
Yeah, it's a good point. I wonder.
And actually, that goes for Star Trek. That goes for a lot of shows.
What would have happened if Star Trek had it not going into syndication?
Yeah, if it hadn't been for syndication,
probably would have eventually died out, even though it had a huge following when it aired initially.
Right.
But see, the syndication is what got it the two movies.
Oh, absolutely. It wouldn't have we wouldn't see any more of it.
There was an animated Saturday morning Munsters. There was an animated Munsters.
Those groovy ghoulies. Was there an animated Munsters?
There was.
And I honestly didn't watch it. I don't remember it. I
don't remember the cartoon
movies every now and again, kind of throughout the 80s. They did in the 90s, and now here we are with the Rob Zombie one that I keep mentioning. So they live on. So
I remember the kid loving the Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Oh yeah, sure.
Those were just great.
Well, that's what they're trying to appeal to.
I think as a kid I liked them because they weren't scary.
That's the Munsters.
It was like you could get monsters without being scared.
The reunion movies, though, I didn't think were were as good. I mean, they just it's like the spirit
No.
was just lacking. It was something. It's the
Did
time.
you see that one where they serve Herman's working as a waiter in a restaurant, and so they bring the original cast in? It's everyone but Fred because he had passed. So it's Al, Pat, Butch, Yvonne, and who am I missing? Yeah, that's it. And
That's
they're sitting around a table, and the guy playing Herman, whose name escapes me, I can't think of who he was.
John
He
Shuck?
comes in to serve them. Yeah, maybe. He comes in to serve them. They said Butch was doing an interview about that. He's like, it was surreal.
Yeah.
But yeah, those movies they're not the same.
Even
They
the
just
Addams
don't
Family,
capture.
they did a reunion movie with the Addams Family, and we had talked about doing this last year, and I actually watched maybe like the first 20 minutes of it, and it was awful.
Was it?
Terrible? And that was I think that came out like in 1977. So you figure it was only
not everything can be the Star Wars
But
holiday.
ironically, the Addams Family movie with Raul Julia and
Angelica
Houston was awesome.
Yes, it was. I agree.
You know why? Because Raul and Angelica got Morticia.
And which you talk about social stuff. You know, they're coming out. They're going to remake again. Gomez is going to be played by a Hispanic actor, and the idiots are freaking out. His name was Gomez Adams. I mean, and it was played by you didn't have a problem with Raul Julia playing it. Wait a minute, he's Hispanic.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, I don't understand why people are upset about this. It just cracks me up. But I'm like, Raul played it so well. He played that role. And of course, Fester.
Yeah.
That was
Jackie Coogan.
Coogan.
Well, yes.
But then in the film, it was
it was
Christopher
Lloyd.
Lloyd. I mean, again, another phenomenal. They put a really good cast together for that film.
Yeah.
But I mean, the original that remake was in the 90s. It came out, I think.
And Christina Ricci was
just really Christina Ricci. Yeah,
very young in that.
Just really, really good. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Didn't mean to derail it.
Yeah, we do it all the time.
What I do.
Yeah, I just want to comment on Matt because he wrote Dan Rubbuck was incredibly funny. We used to drink and eat at Perkins restaurants. I've been to that Perkins, Matt, after multiple shows, and he used to say that I was the funniest person he had ever heard of. The first time I saw him credited in The River's Edge, I was shocked. Hey, I acted with this guy in Bethlehem.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, check him out in the new Munsters movie. He does a great job.
Yeah, he knocked it out of the park with that.
Yeah.
And he's going to be at Chiller tomorrow. He's actually there now. He's there all weekend, along with is it Jeff Daniel? Is that his name?
He played Herman. Yeah, Jeff Daniel Phillips, I think.
Phillips, yes.
Yeah, he played Herman. He had an interesting Herman. You couldn't not watch him, but I don't know. It was yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Did I mention? Oh, I did. We already talked about Herman the Rookie. We did. All right. I brought that up. I'm drinking now, so I have no idea what's going on.
I know my G&T is empty.
What's the score anyway? Anybody watching the series? I'm surprised we have an audience.
No, I'm not interested in baseball. I mean, I used to be, but
I couldn't tell you.
The Yankees lost. That's all I care about.
Yeah, exactly. You see, when I think of the Yankees, I think of Reggie Jackson, Mickey Rivers, Thurman Munson, Greg Nettles.
You're going back
a ways there. Showing your age. Yeah. Showing your age there.
Billy Martin.
Yeah, Billy Martin.
Billy Martin, right.
Paul's watching. He said 2-0 Astros.
2-0 Astros.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Classic Phils.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. I'll drink to that.
So Ross I guess we could start to wind down, guys. Just thinking music. Do you have anything to share about the music about this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy, this is another example of like people having a great time with the show. I mean, I know nothing personally about what these recording sessions were like or what have you, but the composer, Jack Marshall, had to be having a great time with those guitar riffs and everything, with the bass guitar and the big band stings anytime they go to commercial. You know, it was Jack Marshall was a record producer for Capitol Records in the 50s and 60s, but he was a guitarist also, and he did all kinds of guitar, jazz, rock and roll. He did classical. In fact, his cousin and I knew this. His cousin is Christopher Parkening, who's a big classical guitarist. What I didn't realize, and I don't know how this fact escaped me, is he's the father of Frank Marshall, who works with Steven Spielberg. He produced Raiders of the Lost Ark and any number of films. So how do you like that?
Any relation to the other Penny and?
Yeah, not that I know of.
No relation there.
But I was amazed at that. I didn't know that.
And I was thinking of Joan Marshall before too, because Phoebe.
He did a score for a movie with Robert Mitchum called Thunder Road, where Mitchum plays a bootlegger, and Mitchum sings the title song. So if you haven't seen Thunder Road, I recommend you have a few beers and watch that one. Jack Marshall did the music for that, but that's pretty. And he wrote a guitar concerto. I have a recording of it. It's on a disc with Elmer Bernstein's guitar concerto with Christopher Parkening playing. But so he's a versatile guy, and I think he had a great time. I think everybody had a great time on the show. I mean, the two Marilyns, the three Marilyns aside, like the little bumps in the road where they were a little miffed that they were going too slapstick or not satirical enough, but more, obvious. I still think they had. I think everybody in the cast seemed to really get along.
I think so too. They seem to really bond as a.
And I have interesting. Just jumping back to the theme music, that has become so iconic.
Oh yeah.
With Halloween and kind of fun horror. Yeah, we hear that music and we immediately it spurred a whole genre of music.
That and
I was thinking about it. I'm like, well, what did he draw that from? And I'm like, prior to that, I'm going, I can't think of any music that is similar to it that would relate to whether it was one of the original, Universal Monsters or, what I'm saying? It was unique, but yet now it's become that's Halloween. That's horror.
It's it's very powerful, and it just kind of grips you. And to your point, it's very nostalgic, but we think automatically of like horror, Halloween, that whole genre, and it's fun. It's a fun theme. And when you even watch the opening credits, I mean, they evolved as they were doing it and everything, and it really just grabs you and pulls you in, and it's a great way to start the show and lead you into the episodes.
It says it's monsters, but it's fun.
Yeah,
that's what that music says to me.
I'm saying when we think of that, we think of this music.
Yeah,
it's become like almost it's not just the Munsters theme; it's the music that goes along with that whole genre of Halloween.
It's part of our culture.
Yeah,
yes.
It's just like the Monster Mash has come is all in the same venue.
Yes. Whatever happened to my 10th of the
fact, when you think this show is going to be 60 years old, I mean, it's coming up. I mean, in really 2 years. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's just, but yeah.
Oh, that's the Batootsie.
Batootsie.
That's what Catwoman would do. He would do the Batootsie.
Which John Travolta stole. He used that in
Adam West did it first.
It was interesting too. The reason why I put unaired lyrics. What did you come up with anything on that, Ross? There was something that in regards to
now that he mentions it, I'm wondering in the back of my consciousness. I have not.
Was it done like Roddenberry did? Did he put lyrics?
Yeah. Gene Roddenberry wrote the lyrics to the Munsters. Yeah, just so he get the royalties.
Get his royalties.
Yeah. No, you tell us, Jack, if you know.
The first pilot though that they did, or the first treatment, or the first presentation, the music for the Munsters though was very just. It was just
it's very flat.
Yeah, there was.
How about the openings? They had to refilm the opening of the first season because they had a new Marylyn, and then the second season they had the real manic with Herman running through the front door.
Yeah, he runs right through the door. Yeah.
But I forgot about that part. You're right. He forgot into the door.
The other gag was more than one boyfriend would exit in hilarious ways of one of Marylyn's boyfriends. Like one sailed up, and I don't know what he was doing. One kind of ran through the gate. I don't know.
Right.
It was always really funny the way the boyfriend ran away.
Well, even in the very first episode, when he first sees Herman's face, he realizes that's his hair kind of
Of course.
Suppose they just blew it up with a fan, but it's supposed to
And
like.
I can't think of the actor's name that was in that, but he actually was a recurring actor that went on to have a very long and lengthy career. He just recently passed away, but he played Mike Horton on Days of Our Lives. And as soon as I saw him, I thought of him immediately. And if anybody out there have ever watched that show, but he was the one that was in the first, well, it was in the pilot and the treatment, and then they actually used it in the very first episode, and it was Marilyn's first boyfriend. And I can't think of it, but it's interesting to see how these different actors, we were just saying earlier that, they get their starts or they're making their rounds, and then they become well known. And he was definitely one of them.
There was a cute episode where the boyfriend's parents invite them over for a masquerade.
Yeah,
that's the
they
first
go
episode.
over in
That's
costume.
the first episode.
Is that the first?
That's the very first episode. Yeah. And the parents are very kind of snooty, and they didn't want to invite him. And then,
of course,
and then the father is dressed up.
The first episode,
the father is
actually
dressed up
see
just
it
like
first.
Herman.
That's weird.
So the father's dressed up like Frankenstein's mom.
Yes, the father's dressed up like Frankenstein, and Herman's in.
And Herman says to him, "I'm really sorry you weren't able to get a costume."
Right.
And of course, they just take that as him being rude.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, the Munsters are outsiders.
Right.
Just like with the country club and like the neighbors.
Lily went as Bo Peep, so she went normal because she put makeup on to cover.
I look awful, and she looks adorable.
Yeah,
she looks so cute.
Yeah,
he did, Don. You're right.
Yeah. They were the producers and the creators of Leave It to Beaver. The other I was watching one. It's the one where they convince Herman he's going to be a movie star, but they have him sign the life insurance policy. So there's an accident, and because Herman has that face, that they can collect off the accident. They haven't signed for double indemnity. And it's like they didn't know how to end the show. So they show up at the house and open the door, and Spot, the stairs open up and Spot comes out,
comes out.
So they run away, and their hair is all turned white and standing on end. And that's the end of the episode.
Yeah. There was a lot of Herman's face episodes, and there was a lot of, we're going to hide Herman's face. Like the one where he becomes a wrestling star. Like, so he did basketball, baseball, wrestling. Like he played every sport.
Again, in that first episode, he was supposed to be like King Arthur.
Yeah.
But they had the big, this big helmet on him.
You're going to be a wrestling star, but you're going to be the mystery man, and we're going to put the thing on your head. Wrestle.
That was a very common theme through the whole show, was this, they're kind of hidden, and then at the end the reveal that they're really these monsters, and then the people run away.
Again, there's a kind of satisfaction in predicting, and seeing how the punchline lands,
right.
And they've only got 22 minutes. They only have 22 minutes to deliver because it's commercial time.
It's undemanding.
Well, it was longer then.
Yeah,
now it's
24 minutes.
Back then it was about 28 and a half.
Minutes, yeah.
Because it's just like Star Trek, what we saw in syndication, they trimmed it.
We
had to get more ads in there. So, what we saw as kids until they started producing the VHS copies, we never really could see the whole episode.
I know. It used to drive me nuts. I'd watch some of the episodes on channel 17 and they'd cut one thing, and then channel 11 would cut other things.
Yeah.
For us, it was like the unaired, missing footage.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. They did the same thing with 1999 too. It was
they did it right out of the gate. They needed to pack in as many ads as possible.
Yeah.
You know what I also liked? The fact that they always had this chortling laugh track. It's like, do people even make the sounds that turn up on that soundtrack?
Well, there's a whole thing. There's a box that came out in the 60s, I believe, that this guy and his son, I think, invented this thing that would make this sounds, and it was proprietary. Nobody knew what was inside the box, like how he made.
It's like an Outer Limits episode,
but it was canned laughter, and it was used in everything for decades. This went on.
Yeah. Which is why laugh tracks all sound the same.
That's why the laugh tracks and like this guy had this like patent on this thing, and nobody knew it was like this black box of laughter.
It was not filmed in front of
and that's why it all sounded the same, because
you open it up and it's Desi Arnaz.
There's a squirrel in there laughing or something. Yeah,
they laughed all the way to the bank with that thing because all the shows.
Yeah, he made millions on that because every studio was using it.
You reminded me of just talking about that because Get Smart. I was a huge Get Smart fan. Get Smart ran from 65 to 70, ran for 5 seasons. Originally, what they were considering doing was actually doing a Get Smart movie. But what had happened was Munsters Go Home didn't do so well at the box office. So they actually scrapped the idea. And then what they decided to do was to extend it out as a series rather than having it go to a film.
Yeah, anytime they did it with Gilligan's Island, they had a few movies. It just it's just trying to cash in on old stuff, and it very rarely.
No, with Get Smart, this would have been at the time that the show was. This would have been in the 60s.
Yeah,
not the nude bomb.
Not the nude bomb.
The nude bomb.
God awful. Oh, and that was only 10 years later. But
we should do that.
Yeah, you haven't done the nude.
You guys
bomb?
do Get Smart. We'll do.
Yeah, Get Smart was another great one. Again, as a kid watching,
Absolutely.
I love that show.
Yeah, I mean, it was James Bond. I mean,
the Cone of Silence.
The Cone of Silence. Oh my God, yeah. But do you guys have final thoughts about this? Any before we start to wind down?
I mean, it was a great show. It was a great show as a kid. It was funny. A lot of great memories watching a lot of these shows. This is what we did in the basement on the colored Zenith 25-inch console TV.
That's what we had
until it broke. I mean, my mother yelling at me to go outside and not be watching TV all the time.
Yeah. You only had one TV in the house. I mean, it was such
we were kind of lucky. We had more than one, but for the most part, we had the main 25-inch console. It probably wasn't until later 70s that we had more than one.
Yeah. Yeah, we got that. I think it was in 73.
I remember I had a 12-inch portable. Late 70s, early 80s. It was my sister's. They gave it to me, but it wasn't hooked up to the aerial. It was just rabbit ears. I remember trying to watch Buck Rogers on the damn thing, and I could barely pull in channel 4 in New York on that thing, and it was all fuzzy. I'm watching it all fuzzy and black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the days. Now we got 70, 80-inch color, high definition 4K.
4K
streaming service on demand. You don't have to wait. You don't have to. We talked about this back when we were kids, especially in the 70s. If a show you missed it, you missed it.
You missed
it.
I
hope you might have catch it on a rerun. Yeah, you hope you caught it on a rerun in the summer, or you really missed it.
Yeah. Yeah, you got maybe if you were lucky, you had one more pass at it, and then
your friends
over the summer when they reran it over the summer. Yeah, I remember you wanted to make sure you were making sure you. Same thing, Saturday morning cartoons.
It was appointment television, like you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember they were going to rerun the what was it? Because Channel 5 out of New York would never show the black and white episodes of Lost in Space in the 70s. They would always go second season, third season, and then they'd come back to the second.
You're right. They didn't. I didn't know where there was black and white ones until much later.
So Philadelphia, or whatchamacallit, Philadelphia actually ran it, and I was like, oh my God. And it was like I have to see this. And I had to have my tape recorder all set, have the Panasonic tape recorder in front of the TV and be recording it.
Now, that's an audio, folks, tape recorder,
audio,
not a VHS tape recorder.
that's what we did to entertain ourselves.
That's what we did. I did it too. I used to stream Star Trek. Yeah. So it's the only way you could watch it later.
Yeah.
You should make sure nobody could talk while the show was on.
I'd beg my parents
to hear that, and you had to tried to pause it and start it again
with the commercials.
So you manually edit.
Yeah, good stuff.
Good stuff.
So what do you think, guys? Now, if the Munsters and Mad Monster Party were hanging off a cliff,
oh, that's right. That's what we did last year.
Yeah. Which one would you save?
Munsters.
All the way.
That wasn't even a contest.
No hesitation on that one.
Yeah, no
instinct.
Yeah, no.
Right.
Like I said, I think I remember I said this when I was last year. I have this kind of PTSD with Mad Monster Party because I remember I think I told you this, they used to run it on Thanksgiving Day. I think Channel 11 was running it.
I think you're right,
but they ran it with so many commercials and like long commercials.
He just passed away.
It was like horrible, like to watch because you like. Oh, no. So I have this this stigma about that film.
He just passed. Who was it? the one guy from Rankin Bass. It just literally this week.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, I did see that.
And I immediately I thought of Mad Monster Party.
Mad Monster movie.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, no, I have to say the Munsters is a superior viewing.
Okay.
Agree.
There you go.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
So folks out there, oh wait a minute, Linda, I'm just going to throw a comment up there that she wrote. Back in those days, you really you really made it if you had
two TVs.
Yeah. For a while, we would get the TV from the upstairs would go downstairs.
Yeah.
Right. But at that point, you'd watch the TV for 10 minutes and the screen would start to the image would start.
I will say the reason we had two is I remember now. My mom went in for surgery for something. I don't remember what it was. Probably nothing too serious. She's still alive. So, and I remember my dad bought her a 19-inch colored portable television, which portable, was huge, heavy, to bring into so she could watch TV in the bedroom while she was recovering.
Oh,
and
nice.
then that TV made it out to the living room eventually when she was done. That's why we had two.
Update on the score.
And my dad loved television. He still does. So.
Oh, the Phils are breaking hearts.
No, boy. You know why, Ross? Because you've cursed them.
Well, apparently 5-0 Astros. Ross.
I know.
Folks out there in Cyberland, if you have any last minute comments you want to comment on about the Munsters, please do so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the shout outs.
At this point,
love all your costumes.
I'll put the shades back on for the
Halloween. Yeah, at this point in Philadelphia, whether you live or lose, you're screwed. Whether you win or lose. Here, I'll have another one. Yeah, whether you win or lose.
Well, I'd like to see the
We're
Phillies.
the
I don't
city
like the
apart.
Astros because I don't go in.
Yeah.
So this is a perfect lead in.
Yeah.
Because our friends Mike and Marybeth are here right now, and they can tell us about what they're going to be doing this Wednesday on Sci-Fi Distilled.
Do you want me to say, or you want?
Wait, go ahead.
We're doing the Judge Dredd's. The two films.
Plural.
So there is the Stallone version, and then there is the Carl Urban version, which are very, very different takes on the same character. So we're going to take both films and we're going to kind of compare and contrast. One is much darker and much more violent than the other, but they both have merit in their own pick. So that's what we're doing next week at 7:00 Wednesday.
Cool.
Prepare to be
November
judged.
2nd. How the hell is it November 2nd already? Jeez. That's crazy. But anyway, tune into your show.
Less than 2 months to Christmas.
Oh, I know.
It's the 2 weeks to Shatner, which is really what's scaring me.
Is it only 2 weeks to Shatner?
3 weeks to Shatner?
Three
weeks.
Three? Oh, yeah. Don't scare me.
That's creeping up.
I'm not ready for that one yet.
Oh, neither am I.
Oh, boy. I want to give a shout out to Country Gate Players in Belvedere, New Jersey. As everybody knows, the theaters were affected. Country Gate also was affected from COVID. Bill came up with a great idea to do a film series, which was for the month of October, and it was going to be for horror films or of that nature. And we've kind of wound down, and we've done the different shows of Night of the Living Dead started on October 8th. Nostradamus was the 15th, and then on the 22nd, it was Little Shop of Horrors. So tomorrow... Yes. It's going to be tomorrow. We're going to be opening, and it's going to be the Plan 9 experience.
Nice.
It's going to be live. This is going to be a combination of Mystery Science Fiction 3000 and Rocky Horror, folks.
Wow.
Nice. But Plan 9. Okay.
Plan 9, yes.
Now,
I have said to Mary Beth that we should do a fan film of Plan 9.
Let me tell you something. Plan 9. I mean, I remember back in the day going to Walden Books, and this is by where Ross lived. It was in Palmer, Pennsylvania, in Palmer, PA. We'd always wind up going over there, and that's where I got my Starlog magazine, like every other month. But there was a book that was there, and it talked about Plan 9 from Outer Space getting the Golden Turkey Award as the worst film
worst film of all time. Yeah,
yeah, and let me tell you something. It definitely holds up to that. But anyway,
well, it's funny because when you watch that film and then you watch Ed Wood,
yeah,
it brings the whole Plan 9 thing into more perspective.
It does, and you almost have to feel bad for Ed Wood because he was really putting his heart and soul into it. He was really trying to make a good movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you haven't seen Ed Wood, definitely see it. I mean, Martin Landau, supporting Academy Award winner in that film.
It's a great film. We covered it on our show.
We did. We did Plan 9 with you guys, and then we did Ed Wood.
Yeah.
You guys came and did Ed Wood with us, didn't you?
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
So you guys scroll back and watch both of those shows.
But it's fun because we're doing it, and what we're doing is, like I said, we're doing the whole, the Rocky Horror, and then we're doing the Mystery Science Fiction 3000, and it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be kind of it's a fun movie, but it's not and it doesn't even matter what the story is about. It's just definitely, if you have a chance, if you're in the Belvedere, New Jersey area, it's going to be tomorrow night. We're actually opening, and it's going to be at 8 p.m. It's going to be about an hour and a half, I would say. And then it's also going to be on Sunday, and that will be a matinee performance at 2 p.m. So for information, you can go to two sites. You can go to www.billscrotto.com, or you can go to www.countrygate.org. And, we hope to see you out there. But Plan 9 truly is an experience. And to your point, you should definitely watch Ed Wood, and you definitely will have more of an appreciation for the film instead of just like watching it cold. But we're looking forward to doing this. I also want to give a shout out to Captain Phil's Planet on WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. Captain Phil's on alternating Thursdays from 3 to 5 p.m. And then he's also on Friday nights from 9 to 11:30 p.m. I'm not exactly sure what he's doing tonight, but you can check out his schedule.
I think tonight's just Friday freeform.
Oh, okay. There you
go. Next week, he talks to the prog rock band Evership. He is so excited about that interview, so check it out.
Oh, cool. Very cool. And I also want to give a shout out to friends, Studio One Thrift, and this is going to be Martha and Snow. They actually started this online business for clothing, and they've been doing it for several months, and it's been taking off. So if you have the opportunity, definitely go to their website. It's www.studio1thrift.com. They have quality, stylish, affordable clothing for men and women, and it's for all seasons. So definitely check it out. And then, Ross, if you can let everybody know what you're doing. That's from last year.
Oh, okay. Thanks for letting me know. These are the two shows I've got going right now on WWFM, the Classical Network. Picture Perfect's the movie music show, and tomorrow night it's Monster Mash for Halloween weekend. So it's all music with Dracula, the Frankenstein's monster, the Wolfman. We got The Bride of Frankenstein, music of Franz Waxman. We've got House of Frankenstein, which got not only the Frankenstein's monster, but also Dracula and the Wolfman. That's music by Hans J. Salter and Paul Dessau. And then I've got music from Young Frankenstein, the Mel Brooks parody. And finally, music from Bram Stoker's Dracula by Wojciech Kilar. So that's all tomorrow night on Picture Perfect Monster Match at 6 o'clock at WWFM.org. Sunday night on the Lost Chord, Mischief Night. And I've got some French music for Halloween. I've got a piece by Maurice Ravel called Gaspard de la Nuit, or Gaspard of the Night. It's all based on macabre poetry by Aloysius Bertrand. And none other than John Gielgud will recite the poems in between movements of the piano piece. And I'll also have fragments of an opera unfinished at the time of Debussy's death, based on Edgar Allan Poe's Fall of the House of Usher. And the hour will conclude with a Scherzo Diabolico by Charles Valentin Alcan, who was a French composer and pianist contemporary of Chopin and Liszt, who was crushed to death by his own bookcase. Bookcase fell on him and killed him. So that's Jacques O'Lanterns, because they're all French. Get it, Jacques? Sunday night on the Lost Chord at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. And you can enjoy those programs at WWFM.org. If you can't listen at the times indicated, they will be posted later as webcasts. And I'll be teasing them on my Facebook page, Picture Perfect tomorrow morning, and the Lost Chord on Sunday at Classic Ross Amico. Thanks, Roy.
Great. Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it.
Sorry, I'm chewing on one of my own teeth.
So One thing I just want to share with everybody, I've been reminding everybody each week. So we have actually switched over. Probably it's close to coming up on 2 months now. So we are now broadcasting not only on YouTube not only on Facebook, but we are now broadcasting on YouTube and Twitter as well. So if you can please just take the opportunity to go to the YouTube site. If you can please subscribe to the show, it is much appreciated. There is no cost associated with that. And then if you can also follow us on Twitter, that would be greatly appreciated. And we just want to thank everybody for supporting us. We're literally at 2.5 years right now. So continuing to expand. We've been doing the new format. It seems to be working out very well. So just wanted to put that out there and say thank you. And then lastly, Ross and I will be back next week on Friday, November 4th for our 167th episode. In regards to what we're doing, honestly, folks, we'll know on Monday. Which is, of course, Halloween.
Starting to sound like us.
Yeah, no, it's been a crazy week. So, and it's going to be a crazy weekend. So, yeah, that's where we're at. But we will let everybody know, and we'll circle back with everybody in regards to that. But just to put that out there. So, but guys, this has been fun. This has been great.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Yeah.
Happy Halloween.
Hope everybody is going to be safe.
Get Robin in here. Come on,
Lots
Robin.
of trick-or-treaters and/or get candy, whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Yep. If you're going out, be careful. Be safe.
And thanks for
Stay away from that color-coded fentanyl.
Yeah, it's scary out there, folks. I don't know. It's really, really scary. But thanks for all the positive comments. We really appreciate it. And we'll circle back. Happy Halloween. Have a wonderful weekend. Live long and prosper, as we always like to say. And we'll see everybody next time. Take care.
Bye.